And we're live.
Hello, and welcome to the Modern Romantic Podcast, where we celebrate and inspire romanticism through passionate people doing incredible things. Hi, we are two households, both alike in dignity, in fair romantic land, where we lay our podcast. From ancient grudge breaks new mutiny. Sword fighting noises,
Clashing.
clashing. Where civil blood makes civil hands unclean.
Yay!
Hi, I'm Trey. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you. You'll understand that reference in just a moment. But I am Trey, and I'm joined by my co-host, Emily. Hi, Emily.
That's Lady Emily to you. Thank you.
My apologies, Your Highness, Lady Emily.
You may rise, peasant.
This has chaotic energy all over it, and I'm super excited about this. But I'm really excited to get to our guest today. Emily, will you please do us the honor of introducing our fantastic guest?
I mean, I don't think Christina Dodd needs an introduction, but I'm going to say that we have the amazing author Christina Dodd on our show. She's the author of A Daughter of Verona and a new book that just came out, which is Every Single Secret. And I'm pleased to introduce Christina Dodd.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yay.
Thank
you for joining us.
And thank you so much for indulging us in a cheesy connection to Romeo and Juliet.
You should have read, there was Shakespeare Day was, I believe, the 23rd of last month. I mean, I just did a Shakespeare letter that you have never seen before. I'm sure my entire newsletter people were just like, she's got off her rocker.
I'm here for it, though.
Same.
Yes. Absolutely. We're big Shakespeare fans. One of our favorite little pastimes that we do as like bonus episodes is we'll do like a script reading, a Shakespearean script reading. And so we'll invite some friends and some past guests and things like that to come and read. And then it's silly and goofy. And we like some of us have to switch characters because sometimes there are way more characters than people we can fit on the screen. So we're switching hats and we're switching characters and it's chaos and it's funny. Well, at least I think so. We have fun.
Good. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. So Christina, one of the things that I was reading that I found immensely interesting about how you got started was the time from which you started your book to when you got your, I believe it was third manuscript completed, and then you got your first book published. But prior to all of that, what got you interested in writing? What got you started and that creative spirit going?
It always starts with the reading. If you love to read, if you love stories, you're going to eventually think, oh gosh, I can do this. How hard can it be? Which is absolutely the most ridiculous thing in the world because it's very hard. My mother read to me all the time. It was just one of those things. And once I put a book in my hand, I never stopped reading. My aunt once said, oh, once Christina started reading, we lost her. And so that eventually I said, I can write a book. And I started trying to write. And it was harder than I expected. And my first book took 6 years. It was an extremely long historical romance. And then that didn't work out too well. Then I wrote a contemporary romance, and that didn't work out too well. And then I wrote a book called Candle in the Window, which is medieval historical romance. And that one sold. And that took only 10 years. 3 children.
Only 10 years.
Two children and 3 manuscripts complete before I was sold.
Wow.
There was a lot of, I had to go through all the self-doubt and all. People think that writers are glamorous people who have like long cigarette holders and live on an island and have lovers. And it's like, yeah, I lived in the suburbs. I had a couple of kids. I have a husband, same husband, still have him. And I just was so normal. And frankly, there was, when I finally got published, a lot of disbelief among my friends.
What I think what I loved about that story is that you continue to persevere, and that you saw something in your writing that you wanted to keep going, and you got yourself published with that. And I think that is incredible. Because I think there's so many artists who don't start, and to see it through, even with having kids and having a life and doing those sorts of things, you persevered. That's incredible.
You do have to persevere, but after you've done something for 10 years, you better, at that point, what are you going to do if you quit? I had before that been a draftsman. I designed roads, mines, and sawmills. Did I want to go back to that? No, I did not. And I knew I was a good writer. I just was kind of out there on the stories I told, which I obviously still am, let's face it. And but also, if there'd been self-publishing at the time, I certainly would have published myself. Probably followed that on my face, but I would have kept going. My husband was very supportive. He only one time in the entire 10 years said, if you don't get published pretty soon, you are going to have to quit a job.
I'm glad that you have been able to keep going and that your books have sold so that we can continue to read content by you. And one thing I wanted to bring up is, and maybe you can tell us about it, I believe your publisher, at least for A Daughter of Verona, is Kensington Books, right? That's right. And they did this cool giveaway where or a contest, I believe, where you could win this package, or you'd get this package, and it was our producer Sandra got this package from that. And it was so mind-blowingly cool. Can you tell us about that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I have some of them. I'm writing, okay, let me do the plug here. I'm writing contests of my own. Okay. And so, join my mailing list at daughterofmontague.com, and you can enter the contest, because they're called influencer boxes. They send them out to the influencers left and right, and they've got swords in them. I wish I'd known you were going to do sword fighting at the beginning. I would have brought my swords. And they have feather quill, and of course in the book. Anybody who pre-orders the book can get these fabulous stickers. You have to sign up on the Kensington website. They're just really cute. Yeah. It's full of really great stuff, and it's fun. So, and people just have enjoyed having them, and the readers enjoy it.
I want to be part of this. That sounds so exciting, especially that content. I'm a big sword fan as well. And Trey, obviously, we both are.
They're both little tiny swords. I think they're pretty sure they don't want anybody to stab anybody else with them and then get sued. So they're just little tiny swords, but they're still cute.
What's a little lawsuit, Kensington?
I know.
I'm just kidding. Protect yourselves. We love this situation. You should not touch it. Nobody sue Kensington.
Please do not.
Oh no.
But what a cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trey.
No, what a cool package.
Yeah.
And
it was a lot of
fun. With that, I had a thought. I swear I had a thought, and then it just left me. Wow, today has been a day.
It's my fault. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm finishing the book now. Just don't even worry about it. I've got like half a brain here.
You said earlier that before you became a writer, before you started writing, that you loved to read. I am kind of curious, what books did you really stick out from your reading list?
I read just about everything. When you're young, you just read it all because you don't know what you're getting into. And the one that started me out was Laura Ingalls' Little House on the Prairie.
Yes.
So book one, and went to the last one, and by then I'd gained 4 grade reading levels, and Charlotte's Web was probably my favorite children's book, and it still is a favorite. When I got into the bigger books, I read a lot of the classics. to the point where I told my kids when they got into high school and they started being assigned these classics, I said, just make sure you read To Kill a Mockingbird. The rest of the stuff I don't care if you because there's some really terrible stuff out there that they make teenagers read. But romance. I loved romance. I love romance and suspense.
Because I noticed that some of your books are historical based or based in a historical time period. What attracts you to those particular settings?
Well, as with most historical writers, the reason I write historical books is so I can justify my buying historical books to read.
Oh, I like this. This is clever.
We call it research. I mean, look, I brought these in because these are some of the ones I used for Daughter of Verona. And when I decided to write the book, I of course said, okay, I have to be able to research this book properly. And so I was out there buying books, especially Italian cookbooks and a history of Italian cooking, because that was the thing that I stuck on the landing. I wanted to make sure that was right. A lot of the book is very irreverent, but the food is correct.
Oh, okay.
I think Josh would appreciate that.
Very much so.
Yeah. We'll get you a copy of the book, Josh.
He says,
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Now we're getting into my wheelhouse. That's so exciting. We had plugged it a little bit at the beginning with kind of with that reference to Shakespeare. But can you tell us a little bit more about A Daughter of Montague?
Daughter of Montague is the name of the series. It's called The Daughter of Verona. And
Okay.
I was sitting with my daughter. Of course, my family all helps me brainstorm. And I was sitting with my daughter, and I said, what I would really like is an idea for a book that covers familiar ground, like all the Pride and Prejudice spin-offs. And she said right away, a Daughter of Romeo and Juliet. And I said, as people do, everybody does, but Romeo and Juliet are dead. Then I got a hold of myself and said, you know what? They're fictional characters. They were in real life. You got to get over this thing. And so I started this. Some people call it alternative history, but it's not history. It's fan fiction. And I wrote the first 4 pages and then put it down because I thought nobody's going to buy this in a million years. And then a friend, Susan Elizabeth Phillips, wrote me after we'd been exchanging witty emails, and she said, you're really funny. You should write a rom-com. And I said, yeah, that's brilliant. I have written historical romance, suspense, paranormal romance. I should definitely write another genre. And then I thought of the 4 pages that I had. I wrote it back and I said, how do you do that? And she said something like, number 1, boy and girl meet. Number 2, boy and girl fall in love. Number 3, boy and girl fight. And then they live happily ever after. And then she said, duh, which of course made me write back and say, if it's that easy, why don't you write faster? And then she called me a really good name. And then I called my friend Jane Ankrantz and I told her what had happened. And she said, send us the pages. And so I did. And they both said, you've got to write this book. And they've been really heavily invested in it, bless them, through the entire thing, and have read the whole thing and gave me quotes. But it's just funny. When I gave it to my agent, she said, when I got up off the ground, I couldn't believe that you've done this because it's different.
How wonderful that you, and I don't want to say it this way, but how wonderful that you were wrong, that no one would read this. And here we are.
Yeah, no, I know. I think it's a story that time has come. They have on Broadway right now, it's Anne Juliet. And that's also a fanfic retelling of Romeo and Juliet. It was time, I think.
Yeah.
I agree. Absolutely.
The way I wrote it, this was my first time ever. I've been published for 34 years.
Wow.
And I sat down and started writing in first person. It's my first time with first person. And it was so easy and so natural. And Rosaline, she's only called Rosaline if she's in trouble. Her name is Rosie. And she is the spinster daughter of Romeo and Juliet. She's 19 years old, almost 20. and she's been dodging suitors for years because, of course, her mother was 13 when she got married, and her father was 60. And she's a character. I mean, she's very funny. She's very witty. She's very observant, and I have a great time with her. Most people do. Most people laugh. Some people are, of course, offended because you're dealing with Shakespeare, and that's a holy place. But most people are willing to go along with it. Interestingly enough, people who really seem to like it and who give me really good reviews on Goodreads frequently are high school teachers who have to teach Romeo and Juliet. And for them to be able to say, okay, yes, you have to read this, because apparently kids really don't like to read it. No, I never liked to read Shakespeare either. I mean, you can watch the plays, and then it gets really interesting, but it's hard to read. And she used to say, just hate reading it, and then I can show them something like this, and they can see how you can play off of it, really make it work. And that makes me happy. I think that's really great if I can lighten the load for high schoolers.
Well, how wonderful to have a hand in introducing kids to Shakespeare in a way that they can understand and will carry with them, hopefully.
Yes,
That's the point.
Yeah, that is the point.
And so they read in the future.
Oh, that's always what I'm hoping for. I have in my lifetime had people say, yes, yours were the first books I ever just sat down and read for pleasure. And that's quite the compliment.
That's awesome. What a great compliment.
It is.
Absolutely. One thing that you had touched on earlier, that when it comes to writing, that you said that you had to go through the periods of self-doubt, you had to go through the questioning of doing that sort of thing, and now we've come full circle to you've had such an illustrious career. My question to you is, what are 3 things about your writing style that you love the most?
Certainly the humor.
Okay.
Writing an entire book is just so exciting because you get to meet these people and you get to create them, and they are your people, but eventually they take on a life of their own. And that's just fun. I enjoy meeting people. That's one of the other things I love is I'm a writer. I like to be alone and talk to myself. And occasionally they let me out and I go and do an autographing, and people come and meet me, and it's just, that's great. My fans are really great.
It sounds like it. That's really great. I love that you love to connect with your fans.
It's fun. They're just so funny.
Do you interact with them like via Goodreads and your?
Oh yes, absolutely. Goodreads. I've got a Facebook account. I've got a TikTok account, which I'm working on, and Instagram, of course, and 2 websites: Daughter of Montague and ChristinaDodd.com.
Right. We'll make sure at the end of the episode we'll get all of that out there for our listeners to go follow you. But yeah, definitely do that. Because if anything, you're wickedly funny and wildly entertaining.
Thank you for saying so. I've heard that before.
Something that people may not know about you is that you grew a $730 tomato. What was that like?
Well, my husband and I live in Northwest Washington, as in right now I could look out my window and see Canada, and we're really close to the border. And there's not a long summer here, and sometimes the summer isn't even here at all. And so I finally said to my husband, we got to get a greenhouse, or we got to give up trying to grow tomatoes, which we love tomatoes, and we're both gardeners. So we went and bought a like $430 greenhouse, and then which is really cheap, by the way.
Yeah.
And then because he was a vice president of an engineering company, he decided that it had to be able to stand up against tornadoes. Of course, there are no tornadoes here, but don't let that worry you. And so he spent like a fortune on gravel and anyway, yeah, it's definitely, so we managed to get tomatoes finally out of it. And I always said that first tomato was the $730 tomato.
Was it delicious?
Yes. We're not sorry we got it. I mean, it's been like 3 years now, and it's like, this is really wonderful. I've got tomato plants in the greenhouse right now because tomorrow's supposed to be 55 degrees and raining.
It's relatable. I'm in Minnesota. We have a
Oh.
short season as well.
Mhm.
If you don't get your tomatoes planted before you can, like before the weather's good, you may not get a good harvest or a harvest at all. So,
I don't. Yep.
so I'm kind of used to starting seeds in late February and that sort of thing as well. And recently I got a raised garden last year. And so
Yeah.
I felt that way too. Like, oh, between the raised garden boxes and the dirt and compost mix and now I have, although I did get a very good yield, so I'm not sorry either. But wow, I did
Yep.
feel like this better pay off.
Yeah, they're apparently gardening is the most expensive hobby you could have, and I just believe it. Because of the birds here, because there's a lot of birds here. My husband built a tomato house, so it's like completely covered in net that the birds can't get in, and there's rocks around the bottom, and I mean, it's absurd. But hey, we get really good tomatoes.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds great. Yeah, I've been thinking about a greenhouse too, for the same reason, like the weather and being able to start earlier and things like that. But yeah, I'm so glad you did it. That's great. Enjoy every tomato you can.
I will. And well, let me see. If you're going to talk about projects, we're talking about the summer solstice is coming up. Did you read that on my website?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. The what coming up?
The summer solstice.
The summer solstice. Yes.
Did you see the stone circle? And
No,
my husband.
I didn't. Tell us about the stone circle.
Yeah, tell us about it anyway. And everybody should go to your website and look too.
Oh, yeah, it's on ChristinaDodd.com. Yes, just search for stone circle. When we first moved into this house, we've got a lot of ground, and I was looking at it side lot, and I said, "Honey, you know what I'd like? I'd like a stone circle." And I was thinking something like, knee high type thing. My husband was thinking, "Oh, let's get an excavator in here and get the biggest damn rocks you've ever seen in your entire life." And so we had the biggest, the keystone, the main rock is 5,300 pounds, and they're just they're planted around in the circle, and we couldn't quite figure out how to decide where the sun was going to come up on the summer solstice. But my husband was a Boy Scout and put a stick in the ground. Don't ask me how it works. I'm sure somebody here knows. And so, yeah, and then we're sitting out there. Everything's in concrete that first year. We're sitting out there in our chairs, and the sun's going to come up. And I'm thinking, well, if it's not in the right spot, I don't know what we're going to do. But it's perfect.
It's so cool. There's a fire pit in the middle.
Fire pit in the middle.
And it looks like it's like a super romantic Celtic Stonehenge looking, like if you touch the right rock from the right angle on the right day, you might travel back in time.
We haven't done it yet, but yeah, we do it every year. We go out there. Well, okay, it's Washington State. Sometimes it's cloudy, and we don't go one morning, and then we have to go wait for another morning, then we have to wait for another morning. But we go out every year and at 4:30 in the morning and start a fire and sit out there and wait for the sunrise.
That's awesome.
It's a lovely little ritual.
That's really cool. And yeah, those stones are huge. Like,
yes,
you just go look. And you're right. If you search for stone circle, you'll find it.
Yeah, that's right.
That is incredible. That last shot, I love the caption. It's my favorite shot. It is mine as well. When I looked at it, it kind of reminded me with the scenery in the background of Rivendell. Like whenever they first get to Rivendell.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. My youngest daughter's name is Arwen.
Is she really?
Yes, she really is.
What a perfect name. I love it. Lord of the Rings is like my favorite thing in the whole world.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan. You have chosen wisely.
Yes.
Not that you need my approval, but
yeah, no. When she was going to college, the movies had first come out, and somebody accused her of changing her name, and she had to explain that yes, there was a book first.
How awful! But also great that she's out there educating people, because just like we had to do with someone here in this room.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew you were going to bring that up. 2 years, like a year and a half ago, I had never seen Lord of the Rings, like any of the movies or read any of the books. For what was it, 4 weeks straight? It was brought up on every single podcast. So my loving boyfriend decided to help me in my pursuit of getting past that. So we wound up watching them not back to back, but we did sequentially watch them. And I do have to say, they are very, very well done movies.
Yes, yes. I was.
Proud of you, Trey, for watching them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. We're hardcore around here. We can't let that go. It's like saying
No.
you've never seen The Princess Bride. We're not going to let you live.
Inconceivable.
This
Yes.
is the Modern Romantic Channel. What are we doing?
So you said you like Lord of the Rings, and I think it's clear that you had some inspiration from Shakespeare. Are there any other like historical either authors or characters that may have made an appearance in your novels?
I have live historical people, especially in the early medieval books that I wrote. Henry II, I know, did a walk on at one point, and Richard III's child was. I did an entire book around that, which was gobs of fun. But yeah, no, with this one, I played with it quite a lot.
Ooh, okay. Well, I look forward to reading it.
The first thing I have to say, the first thing that I did when I started ready to sit down and seriously do it was to Google when does Romeo and Juliet take place, and generally what they said was between the 13th and the 15th centuries. That's like a lot.
A couple hundred years.
You've got no definitions here. And so, that's the late medieval period to the early Renaissance in Italy. And I did have to sit down and think, how am I going to handle this? And I thought, well, I will handle it with at least as much accuracy as Shakespeare did.
Good thinking.
They don't know what it was said. My husband and I had a very large anniversary last year, so we went to Verona and spent 5 days there and walked around the city and went to the church where it's said that Romeo and Juliet married in the crypt, and it's a great city. It's a great walkable city for one thing, and fabulous churches and just good food. Everybody should go to Verona.
Is it as romantic as it sounds?
It was really, yes, it was great.
Awesome. Another place to put on our list.
How many are we up to? 50?
Oh, at least.
Yeah, probably. As I said, good food. You should go there. Good food.
Yeah. Hear that, Josh?
And we did, because I was smart enough when I wrote this book to make Montague's family of vintners. So we had to do the wine tour, and that was very fun too.
Yes.
You are so wise.
Well, we wine people. We have a wine cellar and the whole thing, and so it was something I already knew about. I didn't have to research, so it was a great way for me to give them a job. People in the Renaissance in Italy generally did have jobs. They had tasks. They weren't like the English aristocracy where they didn't do anything. They actually did. So I thought it was a great way to utilize what I already knew.
Absolutely.
Josh said, that seals it. We're keeping you. How does that go then? If you have, because you have another book out too, and they kind of came out almost in the same month. Right?
March 4th was the last book, and then the next Daughter of Verona comes out on June 25th.
Oh, duh. Okay, I was thinking. Never mind. Then I messed that up. So are you? Like, how does that work from I don't want to bring up business because that's not what we're here to talk about, but I just was curious about how that works with you promoting one book and then now you're promoting another and it's very quick after the last one. Are you still promoting the other one? How does that work for you?
It does, because I have different kinds of readers. Some readers will not follow me from one genre to another. Some readers don't care. Whatever my voice is, they're perfectly happy to read it. But yeah, I want to keep talking to all of them and maybe entice them to read A Daughter of Verona. There's a mystery involved in It is basically going to be a mystery series, and so there's humor, there's everything in there. I think most people would like it, and so I really do want to keep enticing them. Plus, I'm not done with the book I'm finishing right now is a suspense for next year.
Oh.
Okay.
So everyone has to go follow you at least on Goodreads and Facebook so people can keep up with this and make sure they find at least start somewhere and read. Well, pick a book and read it, and then find what genre you like the best, and go from there. Read them all.
Well, yes, of course, read them all. I like that, but that is the thing. I have written several genres, and you can say which genre do I like the best, and that's the one you go with. That's where you start.
It's a good place to start. Yeah.
And after that, if you want to keep going, go for it. I think that what's going to happen with the Daughter of Verona is that there's going to be an entire different group that reads me all of a sudden, and I have no idea how that's going to work out because it's been a long time since I was a newbie and only had one book out, so it'll be interesting.
Do you find, like, I assume that as a writer you write one at a time and you're not switching between books to write many at once. Is that true for you?
Usually, yes.
Okay.
I'm always plotting. Plotting is not my best suit. Plotting is where I work very, very hard. And so I'm always plotting, trying to get things to work out.
Sure. Do you, besides reading other books yourself, is there any other way you fuel your own creativity with inspiration?
I watch movies. I garden.
Yes.
I have been saying terrible things about Washington State, but we live in an absolutely most gorgeous part of the world. And, we hike, we go out on the bay, we visit. It's gorgeous. And there's a lot of that soul feeding that goes on with that.
Awesome. That's a topic that comes up once in a while here because we talk to many creatives of many kinds, and a common thread is that some people go out and purposefully feed their soul and their creative inspiration, and some people just sort of find it. And so I'm always curious as to what that process is for each person, because I've found that some people, when they hit a dry spell or when they're maybe a little burned out, those are the times that inspiration is needed. And if you're not in practice, going out and finding that purposefully can be a challenge. So I'm always curious to what the answer is for our guests.
You can sit on our front porch and just listen to the birds sing, and that's one of the things the guests who come in the summer are just enthralled with. It's wonderful.
That's wonderful. Yes, Washington is a beautiful state.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, with a place like mini Stonehenge sitting in your backyard, I mean, who couldn't help but love it?
We also have a treehouse.
Do you really?
I love this.
With a zip line. My husband loves to do big projects. He really enjoys it.
I love this so much. We have some ideas for him then.
He's very
coming to visit. This is amazing. Because you could literally walk out your front door and have I can't even finish my sentence.
What are you trying to say?
I think it's awesome. I mean, I believe in surrounding yourself with things like this. I kind of do that here to some degree as I have time, but being able to step out your door and have this around you with your mini Stonehenge and a treehouse and a zip line. Where does the zip line go? Like to your door? Like to your patio?
No, it goes across the yard.
It's just still cool.
But it is, when we have a party, we just basically, the rule is you can't have more than 2 beers, you can't go down the zip line. So other than that,
That's valid. Do you have a castle with a turret too?
No, I don't have. I'm sorry. I have bookshelves that open. Do you want that? You want me to show you that?
Yes.
Yes. We would
I'm
love
going to
that.
turn you around. Don't freak out here.
This is like my dream house so far.
Well, as I said, my husband was an engineer.
She's opening it, this bookshelf, and there's more bookshelves. It's like it's
My
even
storage. This is my office. This is my storage.
but I love that it's even more books. That's so perfect.
You know, when you have 60 books and they send you 50 copies with each one, I can't give them away fast enough.
There's a light in there. This is beautiful.
Okay, if your husband has those plans still, I will pay for those plans. Oh, that's beautiful.
Well, I will tell him. I'm pretty sure he'd send them to you.
Gosh.
What a collection.
Archer said in our chat, will he adopt us?
He does he just loves it. He enjoys doing it. He enjoys the design.
If you could add something else to your house, like a dream thing, is there anything else you would add?
Not really. I have a bookshelf. I have a library too. But that was the important stuff when we moved in. He wanted to make sure I had enough bookshelves because I have a godly number of books, not just my own books.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, and so yeah, I really like this house and the property. I suppose if you want to get me something, that would be like people to work on the property because it's 5.5 acres. There's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. That's somewhat relatable. It's a lot to try to landscape that much space.
Well, it's very much forested too, so that's good.
Okay. Yeah, that's so staff.
Yeah, I need staff. I have assistants that help with the, social media and TikTok especially, and but yeah, just staff.
Well, Trey, you're gonna go volunteer.
I mean, at this point, if I can still build e-learning content while I'm landscaping, hands down, yes.
Excellent. We have a lot of ferns that need to be trimmed.
Oh yeah.
God. Oh, well, Instagram, please keep posted for the amount of unbridled selfies I'm about to take on this property. It's going to be incredible.
And here's Trey on the zip line.
So, Christina, with when it comes to your writing, I know that you also like to pair cheeses and wines. So I'm going to ask, with your latest 2 books, what cheeses or wines would you pair with those novels?
That's really very good. Cheeses. You don't want to do anything like cheddar because that's English. You're probably going to want to do, not Manchego either. That's Spanish. Parmesan's a little harsh for most of it, I think. Maybe a nice mozzarella.
Okay.
Can't have tomatoes. That's New World food. They will not have tomatoes. Mm-hmm. But you can certainly have the basil. And a wine. We had some great wines in the video. I think it's Amaro is the one that we had in summer. But there was a lot of great wines. We bought wine and sent it back to Italy, which
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
It was ridiculous. The shipping was more than the wine, but we've enjoyed every one of them.
Have you seen the movie Bottle Shock? Yeah, where they're carrying the wine on the plane and getting other people to help them carry.
Yeah.
It's a great movie if you haven't seen it, anybody out there. So wait, you said you asked about wines and cheeses for this book, right?
Trey? For this book and also for the book that came out in March.
Oh, in March. Every Single Secret. That one. Wait a minute. Let me think. Oh, man, that was on an island. There was a lighthouse. There was on the California coast. I mean, you're going to have to stick with the California wines here. You're going to have to go with a nice Sangiovese, probably. I would really like that. And then the people that we know that do wines in California are Italian and very traditional Italian. Peter Segasio and his wife make their own salami, and it's a big deal. So they've got some fabulous salamis, and gosh, just a cheese that would be kind of nice and soft and gooey. Have you ever had Humboldt Bulk?
I haven't.
It's from Oregon. I'm sorry, it's not California. Boy, is it good. I think it's. Oh no, it's not. It is from California. Get the Humboldt Bulk.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So whenever we have the a Daughter of Verona, we're gonna have a launch party, and at this we're gonna have mozzarella and we're gonna have wine. And then we're also going to be celebrating that book with more cheese and more wine.
Yeah, exactly. Bread. Let's get a good, nice, crusty bread.
Oh yeah,
Ooh,
I like that too.
Okay.
Josh goes, "Yep, we're coming to visit." That's wonderful. I like this. I think it's and feel free to take this idea if you want, but I think it would be kind of a neat thing to give your readers wine and cheese and maybe bread or other fruit options to or ideas to read your book with these ideas with a wine and cheese pairing or something like that.
Actually, when we were in Italy at the hotel in Verona, they had this breakfast spread, and every morning I had this fruit and nut bread. It was dried fruit and nut, and it was so good that I came home and I figured out how to do it myself. And the recipe is on the Daughter of Montague site because it was just, and I mentioned it in the book because it was great.
So you get to live, like you get to live part of the experience, and I love that immersion.
Yeah. It was a great trip. Really, I recommend anybody go.
For anybody looking for that recipe, it is Juliet's dried fruit and nut bread. It is under Mama Juliet's recipes.
There you go. And it's the first one up, but I will continue to add recipes as the books come out.
Oh, that is
How
so
wonderful.
cool. Okay, I think we've got a bread tin over there. Seth, if you're listening to this, we're making bread this weekend.
I actually make my own bread. This one I did with frozen bread because I didn't want to teach anybody how to make bread, but I do make my own bread.
Okay.
It's quite an art.
Yeah, it's hard to screw it up.
I guess so. I mean, do you do sourdough or just regular yeast bread? Or?
I do. Yeah, just regular.
Okay. It's tasty. Fresh homemade bread is amazing.
I know when you read recipes, they always say, "Oh, make sure you cool it completely before you cut it." And I'm like, do you not understand what fresh bread is about?
Who can do that? Could you have a sense of smell?
You want the butter to melt all over the bread.
Right. Let it cool completely, whatever.
Seth and I went to the Highland Games locally, and they were selling these homemade scones there. We picked up like blueberry and lemon. We got a blood orange and cranberry, and then we got a butterscotch. We are down to one scone. We had like 12 scones that we bought. We are down to one of them. They're so good.
I have a great recipe for the lemon nutmeg scones, which is on the ChristinaDodd.com site, and they're not hard to do. They're kind of fussy, but you should definitely give it a shot because they're worth having. Oh my God, they're so bad for you. Terrible.
Who cares? You have one life. Enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like listening to the whole cut it when it's cold, like let it cool all the way before you cut it. Yeah. Don't eat scones because they're bad for you. What?
Yeah.
No, eat the scones with butter and a little bit of honey. Thank you.
Jam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make your fresh bread, you can slice it while it's warm. And then when it does cool off, you can make it a lovely tomato sandwich with your $700 and whatever tomato.
But you can't do that if you're reading Daughter of Verona because they have tomatoes. No tomatoes, no corn.
No corn.
No polenta. You think about it.
Oh.
No potatoes. No gnocchi. No.
So what? They had grains, obviously they would grow.
Yes.
What was their wheat? Would they grow wheat?
Yes, but barley was actually probably in the northern areas most.
Okay. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah. Wow.
It was all of the research was fascinating. And to me, there's on the great courses, there's a history of food. It's called Food and History with Ken Albala. I think that's correct. And I watched it a couple of times because it was just so interesting. It basically takes you from before the beginning of time and how food has evolved. And if you're a foodie, it's worth watching.
Fascinating. So was there anything that made it, like in your research, was there anything that made it difficult to, I guess, to include in the book because you were like, oh, I can't use tomatoes, or obviously maybe tomatoes isn't one, but you want to write about these things and there's like, oh, I can't use that because there's one ingredient that didn't exist or didn't.
If I didn't get something wrong, I'll be very surprised. But I think basically you're dealing with simple foods, and the Montagues would have some money, so they would be okay. And
Sure.
They have wine because they're great winemakers.
So worst case scenario, it's bread and wine.
Yep, and cheese.
Yeah, right. What
And
an
fruit.
what an
Italy.
existence, right?
Why is this? I already ate dinner. Why is this making me hungry again?
Right? I have to go eat bread now.
I have not had dinner. It's what, 5:30 or whatever.
Oh my goodness. Where?
You're on a roll there, Trey.
I am so on a roll of forgetting my questions. In terms of your writing, is there a quote of your own work that just kind of sticks in your brain? Like it's that quote of you're like, oh, that was really good.
Oh, I do that all the time. You're supposed to be modest about this stuff, but frankly, I did go through the 10 years of self-doubt, and now I'm over it. So that's just gone.
We're not here for self-doubt.
Yeah, really, really. Okay, all right. Let me just go ahead and read you the first couple of lines from A Daughter of Verona.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
When I have to tell you, I was doing the last read on it on the plane, and my daughter was sitting next to me, and she turns around to me and she goes, "Are you laughing at your own book?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm laughing at my own book."
That's awesome, though. No, you should. I think if you're not making yourself happy with this too, then what are you doing?
Yep. Well, you do get to the point where writing is a job. That's fine. I think it's the best job in the world, but it's still work. And yes, these books are just pure joy for me. I chortle all the way through, so that's fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and read the beginning of this.
Go ahead.
My name is Rosie, Rosaline if I'm in trouble, and I'm the daughter of Romeo and Juliet. Yes, that Romeo and Juliet. No, they didn't die in the tomb. Brace yourself for a recap, and don't worry, it's interesting in a my God, are you kidding me sort of a way. I love her.
That's great.
Oh,
I like that. We're along for a ride. Tell me again when the book comes out.
June 25th.
June 25th. Put it on your calendars.
Yep, absolutely.
And pre-order it if you can. Can you pre-order
Absolutely. Pre-order it and order your sticker sheet from Kensington Books. Yes. And I'm going to have an autographing at Third Place Books in Seattle on the 25th with Jane Ankren, so I'll be in conversation with her.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And I have another autographing at Poison Pen Books in Scottsdale, Arizona on the 30th. So, and I'll be at American Library Association.
Okay. Cool. So if you're in those areas or feel like buying a plane ticket or driving.
People do drive. I'm always amazed when they say, oh, I drove 2 hours or 8 hours or whatever. It's like, wow, cool.
Yeah. I drove, I think the most I drove to see an author was an hour. And it was in the middle of a work day, and I took like a really long lunch break and got away with doing that. It was when I used to work with Trey. He doesn't know about this.
No, I don't know about this.
It was Charlene Harris was the author.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And she was in a bookstore. I don't remember which one. It was a major bookstore in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I took an extra long lunch break to go see her because she did a little appearance thing. And that was kind of cool.
Yes.
Yep.
Emily, middle name Kramer. How dare you?
Wait a minute. Do you not know my middle name?
No, I do, but
Oh, okay.
I don't want to be saying your government name on
Oh,
our
my
podcast.
government name. My middle name.
Yes.
Yeah, I just never told you because I didn't want to tell anyone because I felt so guilty for taking too long of a lunch break because I think I was gone like a couple hours. It was during a time when I shouldn't have taken a couple-hour lunch break. We'll say that.
You know what? I think it's valid, and we survived, so I think you're fine.
Yeah, well, and I support doing this. Go live life.
Very much so.
Go take that lunch break.
You remember it.
Yeah.
You enjoyed it.
It was an experience. And what was I going to, like, I'm not going to not have the experience, so here we are.
No. Remind me later, there was a very fun story that I shared at work today that would make you incredibly happy. So we'll talk about that later.
Just, what do they call this? What do they call in a movie when it's like, oh man, my brain is fried.
Foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing, yes. Is this foreshadowing?
No, it's not foreshadowing. No, it's actually like funny. It's based on a conversation that we've had previously.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it later.
Do they call it that in books too? Foreshadowing? It's the same thing. Okay.
My kids used to sit and watch a movie with me and go, "Shut up, Mom." Well, now they do it to their kids, their family. I'm like, yeah.
That's so awesome. Is there something about what you do as an author when you look back at your work, or when you come out with something new, maybe, or at some point during the process? Sorry, I had to check my volume. At some point during the process, what makes you look at that and go at what you do and say, yes, this is why I do what I do?
There's a lot of satisfaction in that creative method that I've written so many books, and people will tell you this is my tirade every time, there's only one good way to write a book, and it's their way, whatever it is. And I have written, as I said, over 60 books and then short stories and novellas, and I change my method as I go along. What are you going to say? Are you going to say I'm not successful? I'm sorry, I'm very successful. The book was like book 34, and I was writing the book, and I wrote like the first 50 pages, and then I got stalled, and I'm on deadline. I can't do that because I just didn't want to get to that part where the hero and heroine were hassling each other. So I thought, well, what do I want to do? So I went like to the middle of the book and started writing from there, and then I kind of wrote a little bit more, and then I went back and wrote a little bit, wrote the ending, and then I finally wrote the scenes that I didn't want to write. So basically, you can say I wrote the book backwards, and nobody ever said to me, "Wow, this book reads like it was backwards," and it hit the New York Times for 3 weeks. So you really can't. It is what it is. Just keep putting the books on the page, and if you're doing it and you're getting those pages, the words on there, then you're doing it perfectly right. Your method is just fine. You don't have to listen to anybody else. You don't have to listen to me. That would be ridiculous. Do it yourself. I remember one time I was talking to a writer who was pretty new in the business, and he said he was trying to write a second book, which is always a challenge. And he said, "I'm just afraid I'm going to write crap." And I said, "So write crap. You can always fix crap. You can't fix nothing." And he was quoting me to people, and it was like, "Thank you." I give such wisdom.
Well, it's kind of like any art is, it's better that you at least try to do it and put something out there. And also that there's no wrong way to do art. So there's also no wrong way to complete your novel or write whatever it is you're writing. Whatever method works for you works for you. For anyone to say there's a right or wrong way, the best you can learn are methods.
Oh, and gosh, I can remember a few years ago on Twitter, some guy said, "Oh, if you don't write every day, you're not a real writer." And I was just,
don't take any days off. How dare you?
Yeah, no, never do that. no, it doesn't work that way. And especially if you're a woman, and I'm not picking on guys, but women tend to be the ones that get the elderly parents dumped on them, or the sick children or whatever. And it's not always true. And I do realize that, guys, don't jump on me. But we're the ones that have to sometimes take the time off the work. And that includes the writing to take care of family matters. And it is what it is. You have to learn how to balance your life.
Yeah, I think that's really the key right there is balance. If you don't balance your life, you're not even going to maybe even have the balance it takes to do the work when it needs to be done.
Right. You don't want to have regrets over your family after things are all over.
No regrets.
No regrets. I believe it was Tatiana Pimentel that we had, who she was talking about that she did this and she did that and she did this in addition to running her Etsy shop, in addition to doing this, and had all of these mountainous things that she tried to accomplish. And I looked at her and said, how do you accomplish what you need to get done during the day and then still have time to be sociable and do all the things that are growing you as an artist? And she said that I do have to section out my time. I don't prescribe it like I'm going to do from 8 to 9 this, or I'm going to do from this to this. But I do have to balance it out and say, I need to get these 5 things done, get them done today, and then I will have time to do these other 4 things that are the fun things. So I think what you say about the balance, it's understanding that you've got to have things to do, but you don't have to be so prescriptive about how you go about doing them. It's very fluid, and your process is your process.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said.
Yeah. Clip that.
I have to balance it out with the forgetting my own questions thing every now and then, so it balances out.
So with that said, what do you get a lot of people that ask you advice for, like, what do I do if I want to start writing, or if I want to be a writer or an author? Do you get asked for that advice?
Yes, of course. But for the most part, I have a lot of I love to give advice. I mean, whether you won't even ask for it, I'd still give you advice. But I have writing advice on my website, and that's where people need to start looking. But, this is a solitary profession, and the way you write books, and I know you've heard this from probably every author you've had in here, is you put your butt in the chair and you write. You can have the self-doubts for 10 years. For Pete's sakes, don't do that. You can do it better than me. Just sit down and write and fling yourself out there. I've always said that having a book out is like climbing on stage, and dropping your pants and waiting for comments. It's just, bare to the world, and you've bared part of your soul too. So it's always very interesting. And well,
it's the Christina Dodd show.
Yeah, but
I do get that though. I do. Totally. And I think putting any part of, when you make art of any kind, or you do writing or speaking or anything like that, writing poetry and reading it, you're putting your soul out there to some degree. And so it's very much like that. Dropping your pants and waiting for comments.
You always look for, there's always going to be somebody that's critical about it. So, hey, you do have to get a tough hide if you're a writer. Mm-hmm. I think any kind of artist does.
Oh, yeah. Well, and anybody who comments and has anything to say, they're just commenting through their own lens. It says more about them than about you. So keeping that in mind, I think, at least for me, that helps. It helped when I was beginning doing creative things more professionally.
When people write a review and it says, I don't like this book because, and they give really good sound reasons, they're not things that bother me or whatever, but they're able to say, no, I didn't like this or this or this. I'm really fine with that. It's kind of when they say, Christina's a doo-doo man. I don't like those. I don't like okay, you want to make me hot? Go ahead and say that anybody who likes this book is stupid, because people do say that one, and I'm thinking, you're insulting my fans. You can insult me all day long, and I can shrug it off pretty well, but don't insult my fans. they're really great people.
Yeah, no, that's not fair. That's not kind. Then there's what? As Trey said earlier, sword fighting noises.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Don't make me pull out my swords.
So if, as far as a beginner, then what, you have advice on your website for people who are interested in writing? Is that what you said?
Yes, I
Very
do.
cool.
Yes, absolutely. Just pop on there and do some drop down menus, and there's the writing advice. It's right there.
Awesome. Love that.
As far as like talking about criticism, you made it very clear that you are, when they cross that line of like coming to your fans, that is not okay. And that I completely agree with. When someone is giving you feedback on something that you may or may not have asked them for, like you may not have walked up to every person and said, "Oh, what did you think of my book?" and ask for their opinion. I'm sure that some people just kind of give it to you unwarranted. How do you deal with that feedback, and how do you respond to criticisms in the moment when feedback is kind of unwarranted?
People don't usually to my face because, like I said, I'm a writer. I spend a lot of time in solitary talking to people who live in my head. So that's not a problem. The main thing is the reviews, and they're always out there. People, I just don't read the 1-star reviews. I have to protect my own ego too. I have to be able to continue writing.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff they say kind of stabs at you. So that's important. Is just protect your own mental health and stuff.
I agree.
That's really great advice. Don't read the 1-star reviews. Protect your mental health.
Mm-hmm. 2-star reviews either, actually. You have to be careful on Goodreads because people will absolutely give you a 3-star review, which on Amazon's a terrible review, and on Goodreads it's just a judicious, well weighed review, and that's fine too. So it's you have to be aware of which site you're on and you're reading stuff.
Didn't realize that, but I'll keep that in mind. I haven't been on Goodreads much lately, but I'll definitely keep that in mind. So Christina, we have 2 questions that we typically ask. Emily asked one of them already, so I'm going to think of another question.
What was it, Emily?
It was advice. What advice?
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have one.
Sure.
Is there an author or historical figure that you would love to have lunch with?
Oh yeah, Shakespeare.
Oh, what?
Yes.
That was too easy. I'm sorry.
Yes, it was quick and I love it.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I'd like to meet Carol Burnett. I think she'd be just so great. I just, a lot of the comedians would be fabulous. No politicians.
Agreed. Yeah. See, this is great. Josh was right. We're gonna keep her. Carol,
almost every author I know is just almost every author is fabulous. They're just such nice people and very generous and very giving. It's been for the community that I'm in. That's been very wonderful.
That is wonderful. I love hearing when fellow artists in a genre are not in competition with each other in the way that you might think, and they actually have a community, and they actually maybe get along, and they actually are friends. I love hearing that. I think that's fabulous and needed in many other areas too.
Well, it's not true of everybody, but for the most part.
Good enough.
Okay.
We will find them. I'm just kidding.
We have a particular set of skills. We will find you.
That's spooky.
It's so ominous and dark.
Yeah.
So I thought that's where you were going. We will find them.
It was. It actually was.
Okay, good.
I just didn't threaten to kill anybody.
Well, neither did I. I just said we have a particular set of skills and we know how to use it.
We'll find them.
Find you.
We'll find you and we will make you friendly.
Ominous positivity. Um, okay. Christina, the last question I have for you, we want to make sure that our listening audience can find you and keep up to date, especially with any future book releases. Where are you most active on social media, and what other places can our readers connect with you?
I have TikTok, and that's still a challenge to me. I'm still, fighting my way through that. I have a YouTube channel, and you're welcome to subscribe there. There's my Facebook page and my Instagram page are very active, and then of course the most important things for me are my newsletters. That's where I really give out a lot of information, and I pride myself on writing a funny newsletter and writing one that's interesting, so people are not annoyed about receiving them. That you can enjoy. There's two different newsletters. There's the Daughter of Montague.com, and that is focused on this particular book or this series, because it is such a different series for me. And then Christina Dodd.com is the other one, and you can join the mailing list there. And there's so much information there, including the writing advice and the tree house and the stone circle and all of our madness that we do.
I would highly recommend on ChristinaDodd.com going and checking out the witty and romantic section. I would also highly check out the Meet Christina section. Her bio is incredible, just as two places of interest that I think that you'd really enjoy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Christina, this hour with you has flown by. You are just like you are described by your reviews. You are so witty. You are. I'm going to add charismatic to that.
Oh, thank you. That's a new one.
So it has been infectious to talk to you. So thank you so much for joining it with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a great hour with you too.
Thank you. And everyone should go check out your two new books, but find out which genre works for you to start with. A Daughter of Verona is coming out in June, and Every Single Secret is out now.
As we close this episode out, this episode, along with probably every other, will be dedicated to Joe Capone, our moderator, fellow comedian, passionate encourager, and greatly missed friend. You can find us pretty much wherever you tune into podcasts. Find us on social media under Modern Romantic. Thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Anon.
Anon.
Anon.